Good afternoon. I'm calling to order the Broadband Authority meeting Monday, June 7th. All Broadband Authority members are present. If I could have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next is to adopt the agenda. I'll take a motion.
If I could, I'm not sure, Madam Chair, why we have the request for proposal on here. I thought the last vote of this body was for to produce and review a request for information, RFI. I think the request for proposal is out of order because this body voted on RFI.
Mr. Frazier, as the chair, I looked at a document that was well written, in my opinion, and thought it took us a step further than an RFI. But if it would make you make the board or the authority happy, we can change the title.
It looks like an RFP. So are you saying that you unilaterally made the decision that this would go forward as an agenda item?
As you are aware, I shared the RFP with every member of the authority for your review and edits. I received no comments back. And so, yes, I put it on the agenda.
But it's not what we voted on, correct?
The vote was on an RFI. If we're going to hold off a meeting that is deadline serious for a letter, that would be disappointing in my mind for the citizens of the county.
Well, I think there were several members of this body that were willing to meet last week and go over this in the evening when we could have had a longer meeting and could have done it more quickly. And I just want to be on the record as saying, that I would have been available earlier and for a longer period of time than 1 hour before we have a regularly scheduled meeting to work through this very important topic.
So, being as we are changed the time, it may not be inappropriate to amend the agenda to basically say request for proposals and information. If that would.
But we don't have an RFI to review. We have an RFP to review that we didn't authorize. I sent you an email, Mr. Parrish, about this same thing, but I guess maybe it didn't go through. I know things like that.
No, I got it, but I appreciate it, John. I didn't do anything about it because I frankly admit that I honestly don't know the difference between RFP and RFI. So,
well, that's exactly why we shouldn't be issuing an RFP. I don't think that every board member or authority member is on the same level of understanding, and that's not that difficult. But they're two separate animals. It's like wanting a horse for the point to point and showing up with a mule. They're both four-legged animals, and they'll both get you around the course, but it's not exactly the same thing.
in other words, don't bet on the mule.
No, I would never say bet against the mule, but I know that the point to point people may not want you to ride a mule with their thoroughbreds.
Well, Madam Chair, what's just remind me because I called into our broadband meeting, so I might not have caught all the details. What is the deadline we're under?
The submission for the VATI grant, the application's open on June 17th, and we have to have a partner to join us to submit. And that's why we have tight deadlines.
Right. Yeah, I mean, RFI, RFP, what I hear people say is they want a GST, which is get stuff done. What's the substantive difference between really, I mean, an RFI, Mr. Frazier, and what we have here? I mean, wouldn't it be going backwards?
No, I mean,
And
everybody
restarting?
that we had as part of our meetings, in the Zoom meetings, they used the term RFI because I think they could maybe feel the pulse that we weren't exactly sure what we wanted. And an RFP is a proposal
Mhm.
for a remedy, whereas a RFI is a request for information. That's, to help us move forward to pick an applicant or group of applicants that help us with the proposal.
Mhm.
My recollection is when Mr. Bennett and Mr. Lurch were here from VACO, they specifically directed us to the RFI on the Commonwealth Connect website, and that there's templates out there, and the folks from the Department of Housing and Community Development also directed us to some templates that would be useful for us. And that was the direction that as of our last meeting with an RFI, I was under the impression that we're going.
I don't want to enter the conversation because you're not in the agenda item. But the document attached that you're discussing possibly adopting agenda to include was based on the versions that were on the Commonwealth Connect website. This is not a document subject to the Virginia Public Procurement Act because it isn't purchasing any goods or services. So I don't believe there's any significance of P's or I's or any letter you want to attach to it.
But it wasn't under the RFI recommendation for the Commonwealth Connect. It probably was an RFP.
There were
The
several.
RFI had solicitation of information at the top of it. It was an 11-page document, and that's not what we have in front of us today.
What's the practical difference? Is my question.
The RFI, as as Mr. Fraser said, is a request for information. So you can send it out and you get notes back from anybody that has any interest in broadband. And they basically say, this is what we're doing and this is who we are. And that's all you get. The RFP takes it a level higher, and you're actually asking for set boundaries that somebody would submit to, and that's how you can save some time, because the people that wouldn't necessarily give you an RFI may not be able to do what you ultimately are looking for.
Or the reverse may be true, and you may go in with a certain target and expect to catch that in your RFP and miss things that you might otherwise catch with an RFI that end up being the eventual solutions that you need to pursue.
I guess my recollection was that the discussion was that we had at least one potential partner, which we need for the VATI application. They came and gave a presentation, and then there was discussion about an RFI or an RFP. And what I recall is that, and Mr. Summers, I think, chimed in on this front. I thought it made sense, which is, okay, well, you have someone, and you basically put that someone out there, and then let others respond to what you already have potentially available in terms of a partnership. And then it seems to me in the end, you're accomplishing the same thing as you would an RF with a request for information. It's just you're a little farther down the path, but you're still open to other potential partners and applications and all that.
Absolutely.
So I agree. I mean, couldn't we just change the title of this?
I don't know. I think there's a much larger problem here that we don't seem to be able to work together.
Sure, I'm trying. I'm just asking questions because I want to make sure I understand the whole picture.
Well,
I'm not trying to not work with you at all.
apparently, me being on a Zoom presence here at the last meeting, maybe I didn't say things, I didn't articulate things that I was thinking. Or maybe I just didn't say it clear enough, but we don't have a real internet problem throughout the county. We have pockets of internet, and we have pockets of no internet. And I think what we really need, and nobody has created the map yet, we need a map with different colors to show the different types and different levels of broadband or internet connectivity that we do have. And here we're putting out a request as if we're an island with nothing. And we have all kinds of stuff available. So I think if we had a different colored map with the different layers, we could see the little white pockets that aren't being served, and that's the one that we would go after. That would be covered by an RFI. But here we're saying, hey, we've got a problem, we want y'all to fix it. What's the best way to fix it? And I think we're gonna be, I mean, Mr. Pierce, if I want to buy a truck, I think I have an idea of what kind of truck I want. I don't go to a truck dealer and say, hey, sell me a truck. They'll say the truck that they can make the most money off of, where there maybe twice as much truck as I need. So I think that's kind of where we're at. If I show up at a truck dealer and I act like I don't have an idea what I want, I'll drive away with something I don't want.
So what's your suggestion for today? I mean, so we can move forward with this, because time is of the essence.
Well, I know time is of the essence, but I mean, if we're only going to meet once a month and then we have trouble doing that, I don't know if we're ever going to get out of that problem. But I think what we need to do is to shorten this, maybe cut and paste it if we have to, but make an RFI out of it.
I think we can do that. My concern again goes back to the timeline. If we do the RFI, it's not going to get us to having a partner to go into the VATI process with.
My recollection from the Department of
Housing.
Housing and Community Development is that we don't have to have a partner in July. We have to have a partner in September. That part of what they should provide for us, or what they offer, is helping us sort of figure out who our partner should be and what the best way forward is until September. That we don't have to walk in with a partner. I think she called it speed dating. Sort of, we were speed dating from July to September to try to figure out who would be the best person to partner with us in our solution. So I get the urgency. I feel the urgency. I certainly wish that something had been floated that was agreeable to me. On the other hand, I don't think we should railroad something through that maybe is not what we really intend to do.
I don't know, Mr. Curry or Ms. Donahue, what substantively is in this document that differs from a request for information?
Well, it's not a FOIA issue. You're still trying to adopt an agenda.
I know we are.
And you are supposed to share the agenda with the public, same time you share with the board, which has been done, but
Yep.
I don't know how much discussion you should be getting into the document or those documents while you're trying to adopt an agenda.
Maybe we should approve the agenda first.
Well, I'll move that we can adopt an agenda, but when we get to C1, let's strike through request for proposal with discussion of RFI.
What about my suggestion, Mr. Frazier, of just leaving the proposals on there and adding the information? That way we got all things up open and box yourself into a corner.
I just think that we're not far enough ahead to go for a request for proposal.
But it'd be nice to be able to talk about it today, which we already are.
Okay, if that's your motion, I'll second it.
Okay. Proposals and information.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the agenda with the edit to C1 that'll be request for proposal and information.
Mhm.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Let's see, we are at the public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up to the microphone and let us know what district you're in and how your broadband is. Yes, sir.
Page Fleming from Jackson District. My first comment is, wow, thank you for proving the next points I'm about to make, all right? I strongly recommend not releasing this RFP. It is an RFP. It has an end goal, which is a partner to produce a solution within Rappahannock County. As was just discussed, when was the strategy or cost of this approach ever made public? The requirements in the RFP are unrealistic. There is no way under the VATI guidelines of producing the solution in 18 months. Does anyone here think you can do 100 megabits up and 100 megabits down in 18 months in this county? If it's not realistic, then you're violating procurement rules by putting out an RFP for something that can't be done. There are a number of issues with the RFP. First of all, there's no source selection criteria at all. How does an offeror know what they're going to be judged on? That's a requirement, all right? Back to the executability of this, if you look at the guidelines, it requires them to identify each and every home, business, its location, and its services. How is that going to be possible? You would think that the RFP would have said that the GIS data that you just paid for the emergency response dispatch system would have been provided, or even some of the results of what came out of the Broadband committee, which for all intents and purposes sat on its hands for 3 years. This is a statement of objectives acquisition. From my experience particularly in DHS, I saw many statement of objectives acquisitions, many of them. I cannot remember a single one that was successful. And that was with people with far more acquisition experience and resources than you all have. The problem with them is that in essence, you don't know what you're buying. Kind of the point that Mr. Frazier was making. Is it A, B, this, that? That's what the RFI is intended to find out. There are inconsistencies with the VATI guidelines. The speeds, for example, the VATI guidelines only require 25 megabits down and 3 megabits up for this phase of the grant. You've already, in essence, missed the VATI deadlines. There's, again, you expect a contractor by September to, on their own cost, go and find out where every residence is and determine what their resources, what broadband services they have. And by the way, if you read the guidelines, you'll note that satellite does not count. So if they only have satellite, they're considered unserved. So when I look at the Chantel proposal, that is an RDOF plan, which by the guidelines is excluded from VATI, which adds concerns that if you already have a partner, do you really have an open competition here? That's the question, all right? I could find a whole bunch of procurement lawyers that would say you don't, all right? It's clear that you don't know what you need to buy. you should be using the template, the RFI template that was provided by Commonwealth Connect. It is actually a very well-written RFI. And you will get the information that you need. I would suggest that you add to that some of the information that you already have, since we're, as you like to point out, we're not a publicly available GIS county, Mr. Parrish. All right, but you do have the data, all right? And I recommend that you use that you take this opportunity to send back, use that template, get that out and get it done. But again, your likelihood of meeting this year's deadlines is very, very small. So I'm not buying the emergency need to do this today thing, because you've already missed it, because the broadband committee sat on it for 3 years, all right, when they could have been collecting this type of information.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you.
Anyone? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Robert Young from the Piedmont District. I hope everyone's doing okay. I wanted to provide some comments on this RFP. As most of you know, I work for Rappahannock Systems. My father and I run this business. We're a computer repair company, and we're asked questions about internet on a weekly basis. I have problems with this document. A lot of what Mr. Glenny said is very correct, and I'm very concerned about. The 100 megabits per second download and upload is completely unrealistic from our rural idea. If we're lucky, between probably 10 to 25 is probably a realistic goal to start off with. 100 megabits per second, that's like taking and sticking a goalpost out in another country. It's way out there. It's not realistic. And there's a point in your document that says that tries to justify this by saying we're trying to create a future-proof service. Well, guess what? Technology becomes obsolete. The technology of today is obsolete tomorrow. So that statement doesn't make sense to me. I bought a computer back in December, and I mean, the fact of the matter is it's already obsolete in some ways. Anyway, another concern I have is this seems to point you guys in the direction that you're going to partner with maybe one or two, maybe one partners out there, and you're going to basically be exclusive to them. And I don't think that's the best way to go, because I think you need to encourage multiple partners, multiple businesses, whatever, to come in and cover this county. And the fact of the matter is, we have a local business here, a local broadband service here that is going to be sidelined because of this RFP, because of the 100 megabits per second download. At least that's to my knowledge. I don't. As far as I'm aware, Piedmont Broadband cannot offer those kinds of speeds. It's ridiculous to me. I think ultimately this needs a lot more review, and I get that you're trying to jump on the wagon to be able to get this VATI money, but I think it's rushed. This document needs to be broken down in a longer meeting, as was mentioned, and needs to be really considered and ideas brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
You guys are online.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to offer a comment via Zoom. Is that possible?
If you'll wait one moment, please. I have a gentleman at the mic in the courtroom, and I will get to you right after that. Yes, sir.
I'm Steve Hunsley from Castleton, and I've not been following this as closely as I would like to. I didn't really, wasn't aware this was happening. So I have several concerns, one of which is the cost of this. And yes, I know you're trying to get some money for it, but if it's a cost share, I have a lot of experience with cost share on conservation practices on the farm. And I have experiences that are good and bad. I have experiences where nature wiped out the conservation practice that government engineers assured me would last for years, and it was gone in 3 days. And I was stuck with thousands of dollars in bills and costs to repair this at my own expense. So I'm leery of cost shares. How much, if we're spending 10 million, 100 million, if it's 20% off of the county budget, where's this money going to come from? I'm concerned about how are we going to provide this to all the homes? Are we talking about burying fiber optic cable or what? If you try to build a fence in Rappahannock County, you'll find that the fence companies charge extra for this county due to rock, which there's no, in the conservation monies, they don't pay extra for Rappahannock County. We are priced at the same level as a non-rock county for easy digging. So how are we going to do this? Also, I know you're talking about going to every home. I spent years designing power lines, especially through rural south side of Virginia. I had a few people that welcomed me with open arms. They actually experienced the old USDA rural electrification program. That's how they got electricity and indoor plumbing. I was chased off people's property with guns, even though I was standing on the power company's right of way legally. It's a difference between getting shot and running for your life. So I don't see that this is going to be an easy thing through some of the areas and some of the people that I know, God bless them, here in the county to try and get this thing done. So, the right-of-way access, I think, is something that y'all need to look at. Again, the money or taxes going to go up to have to pay for this. And I will say that I'm one of the people that for over a year now has been working out of home. And I've had a variety of different cell services, not just in this year, but over the years, starting with dial-up, moving to air card, moving to satellite, and now moving to MoFi cellular system, which seems to be working. And all of them, you go with a company, they promise whatever, the download speeds, the upload speeds. When I went with satellite, we were one of the new ones on the satellite. That all worked great till other people get on that system and it bogs down. And then you watch your speeds slow up. You watch the companies give you the runaround. There's nothing they can do. The promises, you have outages, they promise a rebate. No, you never see it. So I know, there's an issue in the county, but we at least have been able to always find alternatives that work for a year or 3, and then we might have to move on. And then, well, that's pretty much my comments. So
Thank you, Mr. Ansel. Was it Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan, if you are still available?
I've asked him to unmute.
At Stonewall, and actually joining you via the internet here in above Woodville. My comment, if is it coming through? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Good, thank you. My comment is one, over the last year in the pandemic, obviously the needs are great, and especially education. So we're talking about broadband. And broadband and cellular service, I think we have to think of as 2 different things. If I have broadband here, as I'm speaking to you now, in my house, and I go 100 yards down my driveway, I don't have cellular service. So, but I can talk to you via my mobile phone through the internet. And the broadband now is being served by, as everybody has mentioned, a variety of servers here in the county, from Verizon, Comcast, some fiber, Piedmont Broadband. So Chantel has, from what we heard, quite a extensive proposal that may take 6 years. We need to address the issues, broadband, the need particularly for education and serving the educational community as soon as possible, and use a variety of methods. So the one comment I have is that with what we see, the variety of a patchwork, if you will, of providers, is to whatever we do, do not enter an exclusive arrangement with one of the major, let's say, companies, national, international companies. We're using public funds, if everything goes right, to bring broadband to Rappahannock County. And it shouldn't be done with a monopoly, especially where public funds are concerned. So as we enter into agreements, I think we have to make specific requirements that whether it's 1, 2, or 3 companies, that they work as cooperatively as possible to bring the needed broadband to as many people as possible, and that it not be controlled by some monopoly going forward. So that's my basic comment. And I have, as a point of information, worked with Piedmont Broadband. And in the future, I think we can make a wide area wireless broadband service to reach many, many communities, many households which are not served now. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we've got to put in 15, 10 huge antennas that will take 5 to 6 years. Piedmont Broadband and Virginia Broadband in Culpeper County are serving many people with modest, if we should say so, towers. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. I'd like to close public speaking. Rich, did you have your hand up? Okay, you don't need. Okay. I'd like to close the public comment so we can get back to the RFP, RFI conversation. It's my understanding, Mr. Fraser, that an RFI is basically just sending out a notice to everyone saying, are you interested? And if so, who are you? And where do you cover? What does your business do, I guess? What would you see beyond that in the RFI?
That's a very, very basic idea of what an RFI is. We could certainly write it for our needs. And our needs are unknown. That's the problem. We really don't know what we don't know. And for us to just, put a proposal out there, a request for proposal that we want somebody to come in and shotgun broadband all over the county, it's not economically feasible. And that's, as Mr. Curry has pointed out multiple times, that's why they're not here now. But if we can, lure them in, or we get sucked in because of this, and I think somebody actually alluded to it as free money at our last meeting to the audience. There's no such thing as free money to start with. And any money that we have, whether it comes from one pot of federal borrowing or another pot of federal borrowing, we need to be very, very careful how we invest those dollars in this county. So we can curtail, or not curtail, but we can contain what we need and shape the RFI for our specific needs. But I don't know that we really know what they are, because like I said, we've got multiple carriers of different types in the county. And this one gentleman that just cut down, I think he spent $8,000 chopping down trees so that he could use Starlink. You can bring in any broadband provider you want, and he's not gonna hook up with them because he's got to try and get his $8,000 back. So in his own mind.
Back to the question, do you feel like with the RFI, it's asking just for interested businesses, not soliciting bids, not hiring anybody to solve the issue? It's just, we want to know who's interested.
Exactly. I think that's what we need to do. Find out who's interested and what they can offer us. I really think this 100 up and down is unattainable, especially with anything besides fiber. And I don't even know what's available with fiber. I think you can get 100 up, I don't know about down. So I think we need to find out exactly who would be interested and what they could offer us. And then I think we need to know where we need to pinpoint the problem. So I think an RFI, and that's why it was recommended by everybody that we talked to. Everybody we talked to used RFI. And somehow we come up with an RFP, which is a violation of what this authority voted on.
But just speaking to the violation of what you voted on, nobody was stepping forward to do anything. And I fell on the sword and said, I will develop something for you. And I developed what I thought you wanted. And I welcome anybody to take what I prepared and change it however you want, develop something entirely different. But the reason I landed where I was after looking at several RFIs and RFPs is because the ARPA money has a 100 limit, and there's $7 billion of ARPA money coming to Virginia. And if you want to use it, you got to include 100. And if you don't want to do it and use that money, the 1.4 that's coming to Rappahannock County, then we can put 25.3. But you cannot use that $1.4 million for it.
We could do what we did with the original CARES Act money, which is spend the ARPA money in ways that we've already budgeted to qualify with underneath that, and
those doors are closed.
Well, Mr. Curry, I don't
for the
want to see.
ARPA funds.
That's right. You cannot use it for public safety payroll.
But I mean, there should be other things like infrastructure that we can use it on that we would also have budgeted.
Public utilities and broadband.
That's all we're allowed to use it for.
Heard some other counties saying they're going to use it for schools, but I can't see how it's eligible.
Mr. Curry, if we could go back a second. I'm not trying to upset anybody here, but what we voted on is what we voted on.
Yeah, I'm not upset. I'm
Well,
trying to move.
well, my question is, when you decided to go for this RFP, did you talk to any of the authority members?
I shared a draft with Chair Donahue.
Which is
But
what I
Chair Donahue doesn't have the authority to unilaterally make decisions for this body.
The decision making is happening exactly right now on
The decision making is happening because we only have this one thing in front of us. That's the problem with the way that y'all went about this. That's my problem with the way that y'all went about this.
I apologize for spending a weekend writing this, and I apologize for the week or two it wasted of your time. And I will participate in any way that the board, the authority board, would like to go forward. Whether that includes me doing anything or assisting somebody else in doing something.
Mr. Frazier, if I may.
No, wait a minute.
Mr.
Wait a
Frazier.
minute, Madam Chair, Mr. Curry is, I believe, out of line because if he didn't want to do it, if he didn't have the time to do it, then we should have known that up front and we could have done something different.
Mr. Frazier, I think our goal today is to have something that we can either send out soon, or we can have another meeting soon to finalize it. If I had heard from anyone when I sent out the rough draft, that this was going to be a problem, we could have prepared differently. And I
I would
didn't
say,
hear from
Madam
anyone.
Chairman, that I don't think that's fair. We shouldn't be doing our business via email. This is public business, and we should be doing it publicly in a meeting. And I don't think we should be debating things via email. I don't think we should be revising things via email. I think we should be doing it in person, together, moving forward together for a successful document that we're all happy with. And, when I receive something that frankly, I have to wonder, where did this come from? And I don't find fault with Mr. Curry at all, because he does not work for this body. And he did go out of his way to do this. However, it is not what we agreed to. It is not what was brought to our attention from the experts that we asked to come in and consult with us as to how to approach this. And so I have to say in good faith that I have concerns about moving forward with this particular document when other folks who talked to us steered us to a template that we should be using.
How long ago did you send this out, Ms. Donahue? I'm trying to recall.
It's been a week, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, that's a pretty logical way to disseminate a document for everyone to review in advance of a meeting. I don't think that's like, I don't think that constitutes conducting. I mean, we all communicate.
Oh, I certainly reviewed and prepared and reviewed other RFIs and went to Commonwealth Connect and went back and checked my emails from Mr. Lurch and Mr. Bennett and made sure that my recollections were correct as to what their advice was. I certainly did the preparation, however, my preparation did not lead me to the conclusion that this was the document that I wanted to circulate.
I have to agree with Ms. Smith that we really shouldn't be conducting a lot of business via email between members. I thought that we could have gotten together and perhaps used that template and went over it, but what surfaced was something totally different. And it was okayed by one member of this body.
And I was available several evenings last week and could have met for longer than an hour.
We didn't have the FOIA days available to get together last week, but that's really not getting us anywhere. If we want to look at this as an RFI instead of an RFP, that's fine, but what does need to come out would be the question. I mean, the purpose is still there, the county background is still there.
And
I mean, did folks review the Commonwealth Connect template, see a comparison of the two that we were recommended to use versus what we received? Because I think if you do that, it becomes pretty evident, you know, where the issues are.
Bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3, there's a paragraph that's split between those pages. I mean, and I appreciate Mr. Fraser kind of walking through how he envisions a request for information. Isn't that paragraph precisely the type of general statement of interest that would go out, you know, request for information? I mean, it's the label being partnership desired outcome. I mean, is that the gist of? Is that the heart of?
Yeah, it's pretty much the goal that the broadband committee had with the 95% of households.
I mean, there's a lot in here that I think easily could comprise a request for information if it's just a matter of backing away from any level of specificity, then perhaps we could just go through it. Mr. Fraser, if he'd be willing, could just identify those areas, or Ms. Smith, identify those areas that are in particular problematic and too specific, and then we just call it an RFI.
I'm happy to do that, but I don't think it can be done in 15 minutes.
Well, let's see how far we can get.
Well, if we could pull up the RFI from Commonwealth Connect on the screen, I think that would be very instructive.
Here's a hard copy of it if anyone is interested in looking at it. You understand.
Sorry, Jim. Here. Why did you just throw this at me? I mean,
I thought I provided to you because you're not really, never mind, I'm not supposed to be talking.
I mean, I think if you look between the two, it's very clear that there's differences. There's a soliciting body, I mean, everything's different. All inquiries or requests for any reasonable accommodation or any type of disability to participate in the solicitation should be directed to. It has a table of contents at the beginning. I mean, it's a totally different document.
It's a pretty long document.
Well, it is, and I think some of the reasons it's so long is the protections it provides for the people making an inquiry, which would be us.
It's a prohibition of alcohol on drugs at the job site. Sex offender registry notification. What the hell is this?
That's just boilerplate stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it contains language regarding ethics and public contracting, the no contact policy, applicable law in courts, indemnification, auditing, all the things that you would want in researching this with a partner are here.
Those are all requirements from the Virginia Public Procurement Act if you're buying a good or service.
I mean, but I guess my point is that it's included, so why haven't we included it?
Because you're not buying a good or a service, you're seeking a partner. Now, if you want to buy a good or a service and have the authority own a good or a service, that's a different process, and you can certainly do that. But for example, the Chantel, the county will not own anything in the RDOF area. That will be all owned by Chantel, run by Chantel, partially funded by the federal government. If that sounded like that's what the model was, that the Broadband Authority was looking to expand and offer to other entities to share the burden of hand and allow other people to take that same option. But maybe it's not.
I mean,
I
it
don't
is,
think I made that, feeling, you know, that I had, I was thinking in that direction.
Ms. Bond, I know we had the broadband committee had wanted to go in the RFP direction. Did you also research the RFI? Did you have anything put together? I don't remember.
No, the draft of a couple different versions of an RFP were essentially combining two ideas. One, the concept plan would be sort of like an RFI, who's out there who has a vision for how to put the provide services to the county, and they are, and the follow-on for whichever concept plan was selected would be the more detailed plan, such as Mr. Fraser described. What do we have out there? What do we need? How can we put it together? What are the different service providers that could be used? But the detailed plan that would give us as a county knowledge of what we have, what we don't have, and what we need. So it was kind of a two-phase process, with the caveat that there was no requirement for the county to select any one of the service providers or any one of the respondents to go further than the concept plan.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would ask in the future that members of the public act with decorum and civility. I don't appreciate having papers thrown at me, okay? I mean, there's no reason to get angry here, sir. Just, no, you weren't. You're trying to make a point, and I don't appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Sorry.
Let's,
You're making an assumption.
all right, so it is 1:48. We have to finish up slightly early because we have another job to go to. I don't think that's what we want because we're not buying anything. Maybe we can find a much simpler document. But I think it's a shame to wait until we walk into the room to decide we're not going to talk about what has been sent out earlier.
and I'll continue to think that we should not be conducting public business via our government emails without benefit of public debate.
So that would require an awful lot of meetings.
Yeah,
But anyway, what we got out of today so far, and it's probably about all we're gonna have time for, is we've been advised that it may not be wise to have an exclusive partner. We've been told that the 100, whatever they are, 100 is unrealistic, but otherwise our hands are tied, because that's what we have to go for to get the money, the so-called free money, but it's not free. And then we've also been cautioned, which has been, my fear all along, that the county's going to go to a bunch of time, effort, and expense, only to be, outdated with new technology, and we would have gone to all that, for naught. So I know that last time, I think Ms. Smith brought up the fact that we should make it more, or I'm not sure if you're talking about the mission or you're talking about the RFI.
I didn't agree to work on the RFI, but I am working on the mission statement for our next
The mission
meeting.
statement, yeah, and it does make sense to make it broad,
Yeah.
simple, and not give ourselves, goals that are unattainable.
Correct.
So, I mean, those are my thoughts, and it looks like we're gonna have to have another meeting pretty soon.
yes.
I mean, I think we should continue this meeting.
Right, I was gonna make a suggestion, can we just continue this meeting and perhaps either right now or at this continued meeting, appoint two of us as a subcommittee to work on this RFI. Perhaps we could take some of the burden off of Mr. Curry and Ms. Bond has been working, she's been working perhaps we ought to double her salary, but she's been working.
She's been working this whole time we've been sitting here.
Diligently. But I mean, I think there's something that we can do there. Maybe just continue this meeting for a couple of days. I don't know what is the best thing to do here, but I don't think that we can make a decision right now.
So if we're gonna continue this to another,
We could do it in the evening though, because this
well,
was,
what if we do one of those Google things where we can fill in when we're available, like in a
I think if we're gonna continue the meeting, it has to be to a time and date
specific
certain.
time?
Yes.
And location.
In location.
could we?
And we need
do
at
it,
least 3 days.
Later in the day, because this is,
I'm free,
I mean-
I can be free every evening this week.
I think the 5:30 worked for most. This was just an attempt to get this done today. And I know we need 3 days, so Friday the 11th.
That can work. Like I said, I'm free, I could be free every evening, except for Thursday, I have an RCRFA meeting, so if you all don't mind me missing that, I would be happy to attend.
What about Wednesday? Wednesday?
Wednesday
Of
would
the
work
next
too.
week.
No, this, 2 days.
I don't think,
We don't have to notice it if it's a continued meeting.
Yes, you do
Okay.
need to notice it.
Oh, we do, but not with 3 days.
It has to be 3 days or time that's reasonable given circumstances, and I don't know that wanting to do it on Wednesday is reasonable given circumstances.
takes us back to Fridays. I know it's a Friday.
All right,
It's fine.
okay.
Thursday, we could do it Thursday as the soonest with 3 days.
If you noticed it today.
So we're talking Friday at 5:30?
We can do it earlier, 5 o'clock if people want, but
Either one's fine with me. Probably Friday's better.
Do whatever.
okay. Friday, 5 o'clock, continue to
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Courtroom, yep, please. All right, we'll continue the meeting Friday, 5 o'clock in the courtroom.
You vote for that?
All those in favor say aye.
I,
Is there a motion in a second?
No, that's true.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Parrish, Ms. Smith, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Given the time, I would, let's see. anything that we need to